as the youth, where do we then find ourselves in this entire conversation? Yeah. Right here in the studio, I'm joined by Kaikai Naipamei, who's the CEO, Youth Champions for Sustainable Development Goals, and also Thomas Ogendo, who is the Executive Director, Youth Action Network. The question that we're asking this morning then, from all of them who are joining us in the studio this morning, is that in this entire conversation for demonstrations, where do we place the youth? Because it's a very important conversation that we need to have in this entire conversation. The question has been that majority of the youth are getting used to demo. But why should you as a youth demo? That is let me introduce them again afresh this morning. Again, we're joined by Kaikai Naipamei, who's the CEO, Youth Champions for Sustainable Development Goals. Ms. Naipamei, how are you doing? Happy to have you around. Also in the studio, we do have Thomas Ogendo, who's the Executive Director, Youth Action Network. Thomas, how are you doing, sir? Happy to have you around. All right, let's then jump into the conversation. But before we get there, this is the story that would essentially open us to the conversation that we're going to have this morning. Essentially, what we're talking about this morning is the cost or the costly protests aftermath. Now, residents of Nakuru County are counting losses in their businesses after armed protesters attacked, robbed them, and destroyed their property during the anti-government demonstrations, which began on Wednesday. The business owners are now calling on the government to help them restore their business and ensure the perpetrators are brought to book. That story essentially was number 3 in our lineup yesterday. Let's take a look.
Fear, uncertainty, loss and grief engulfed residents of Nakuru County in Shabab and Ronda as goons in the name of protesters attacked their businesses, invaded their houses, causing destruction of property worth millions of broken glass and a cabinet, a true presentation of the amount of damage that was caused. Nafula, a resident who fell victim to the robbery, is still in shock as she narrates how she lost property worth thousands of shillings.
Mmoja ndani na wako na mashoka ile sharp sharp. Wanakata hiyo kifuli, alafu mlango wanakata, wanaingia ndani. Wanaambia kaa chini. Ukijaribu kubishana nao, wanakuumiza. So unakaa chini, wanaingia wanabeba mpaka wako paka na wamama. Wanabeba kila kitu.
Wakatoa kila kitu wakapasua hizi vitu zingine kwa napasuliwa kwa barabara huko nje. Wanaangusha chini manguo za watoto, makarai za maji zilikuwa pale nje. Wamechukua wameenda nazo. Jiko zangu za huwa nafanya events. Jiko 9 zilikuwa huko nyuma. Wakabeba zile jiko kubwa zote na wakaenda nazo.
A witness account indicates that the people that caused this damage were not peaceful protesters because the aftermath of their actions is nothing close to peaceful demonstrations.
Hii ni uvamizi. Hii si maandamano. Maandamano ni kwa barabara.
Armed with weapons and masked, the only message they wanted to send was danger.
Sasa hao wanakuja hata tujuni wakina nani. Na afa mjivaa barakoa imefika hapa, hawataoneshi uso.
Ilikuwa mchana.
Saa 8. Saa 8 mchana.
Wakiwa pandani.
Wanawa. Sababu walizunguka ploti mzima. Wakaingia kwa hiyo wakaenda paka kwa nyuma kwa majirani.
And to this butcher, the hope of continuing with his business was doomed as the protesters robbed all that he had, including his meat refrigerators.
Yani kwa kisasa nimebaki kama sina chochote kibiashara. Wamenimaliza kabisa. Nimepata hasara kama shilingi 1200. Kila kitu ilikuwa nyama, ilikuwa tulikuwa tumeweka nyama kwa fridge. Kila kitu ilikuwa.
Former Bahati Member of Parliament Kimani Ngonjiri has called upon the government to take action on the robbers who took advantage of the demonstrations and caused damage to the citizens.
Kitu ilikuwa hapa ni wizi, lakini sio maandamano. Tuna condemn na tunauliza rais wa Kenya Ruto, president wetu, just one thing. Wewe ndio uliapa na kusimama na katiba yetu. Ile kiapo ulikula kusimama na katiba yetu. Ya pili kusimama na property zetu.
As the Azimio leaders continue to affirm that the 3-day scheduled mass protest will proceed until the government takes an appropriate action, the fate of these business people remains in limbo. Warimu Kimani, Look Up TV.
That story then introduces us to the conversation this morning. Let me start with Naipamei. If you look at the conversations that are coming from both sides of the protests, we hear majority of leaders say, well, the youth are getting used in these demonstrations. Why would a youth go to the street today, Naipamei?
Thanks again for having me here. The reason why the youth are getting themselves in this desperate situation is because of lack of employment. So they find that life is becoming hard.
Yes.
And they've been indoors all day. They've been idling. You know, there's this proverb that says, an idle mind is the default to action. So they find themselves doing such art, and because they're frustrated because of the situation life has put us, they end up engaging in bad demonstration. Demonstration by itself is a right in our constitution, peaceful demonstration, which means the youth can go out there peacefully. They give out their views on how the government can provide job opportunities to us.
Yes.
But because we are frustrated, and maybe someone just triggers that frustration you have down there, you find yourself on the street and doing things out of anger. And if you have seen those clips circulating, most people who are destroying property, private and government, are the youth.
Yes.
Why do you think a learned person who have graduated will do that and they know it's wrong? It's because of this frustration.
Yes.
Our source of moving forward is drugs. Most of them are not even sober. They are drug addicts and they just need a few coins so that they move forward.
Yes.
So because they're hyper,
yes,
they are not even aware that they're doing something wrong.
The reason as well on the street is because of the cost of living.
Yeah, which is...
Would you think youth would join these demonstrations just because of the cost of living? If it's employment opportunities that the youth need, if it's these jobs that are not being provided by the government, is this a demonstration for the youth, or they've just been pushed to facilitate demonstrations, Naipamei?
As we all know, in Kenya, we are always the means for anyone to get their needs,
yes,
the young people in the country. We are occupying 67.8% of the population. So, because we are cheap, number one, if you're not employed, you take opportunity of anything and everything that comes across. It's so easy to mobilize people who have lost hope in life. And it's so easy to mobilize people who are jobless. So, politicians are just using the youth as the end to their means. Once they get it, let's just reflect back in 2017, 2018. Miguna was the one who carried the cross. And right now, it's the youth who will carry the cross. So the youth are just used to accomplish a higher purpose, which they're not even told, because as we all know, demonstrations are never about me and you. They're always about something else, that we are not told that, hey, we're going to demonstration because of this and this. We're just told the things that we can get emotional with.
Yes, the Azimio Coalition has told the youth why they need to come in and support the demos this time.
It's because of the cost of living. But we all know what. What did Macau Mtua said? What did he say yesterday? He said that they need a handshake. So the relationship between the cost of living and handshake, where is it coming from?
Yes.
So where will the youth fall in this space? Because we are told we need to go to the street to reduce the cost of living. But again, when we are going to the street, the government is losing millions of money, billions of money actually. Not only the government, but business people. Mama Mboga cannot sell mboga because there's demonstration. To Mkokoteni cannot get the 200 shilling because there's no one going to the market to buy goods so that he can be able to Mkokoteni. And then the guy who sells water around town to offices cannot do that because there's demonstration. So how is this helping the cost of living? For me, I feel like we all understand why the cost of living is high, but we just don't want to be responsible or active with it. Even last year, when Raila was doing campaign, he explained to all media houses, there was a media interview, and he said very well that the reason why the government is facing tough economic times is because the world economies are also facing the same. We start from back 2020, there was COVID-19, and the bad fortune to our country was, during that time, locusts invaded the biggest part where we get the maize in Kenya.
Yes.
And then after that, there was COVID-19 billionaires who looted the money. You guys, we should follow these things how they are. So the money that was supposed to cushion the economy and help people who are affected during COVID-19
yes.
disappeared in the thin air to some individual in the previous regime. Then after that, there was campaigns, and you know when there's campaign time, there's no development. And then after campaigns, there's the new government. New government comes in, you're telling them the cost of living is caused by you. And then it's not caused by them. And then there's war in Ukraine,
yes.
which they are the biggest producer of wheat. Wheat goes high because there's war in the grounds. And then the country which are fighting are the producers of crude oil. So once there's war, the cost of everything goes up. All are things, you know, when crude oil goes up, every production process goes up. These are not caused by Kenya. We don't
yes.
produce any oil in Kenya.
Yes.
So these are external factors
yes.
that our government cannot control. But the only thing the government can do is to ensure that the environment is at least the citizen can manage it.
I'll be coming to you on that, because it looks as if that the youth look like they're getting used in this particular demos. But if you talk to majority of them, I'm going to show you what sentiments they're sharing across the